Everyone who's ever taken a shower has an idea. It's the person who gets out of the shower, dries off and does something about it who makes a difference. The ultimate inspiration is the deadline. Innovation is hard, it really is, because most people don't get it. Remember, the automobile, the airplane, the telephone, these were all considered toys at their introduction because they had no constituency. They were too new. Hire for passion and intensity, there is training for everything else. Today, companies have to radically revolutionize themselves every few years just to stay relevant. That's because technology and the internet have transformed the business landscape forever. The fast-paced digital age has accelerated the need for companies to become agile. Atari showed that young people could start big companies. Without that example, it would have been harder for Jobs and Bill Gates, and people who came after them, to do what they did. I guess I'd like to be known for being an innovator, fostering creativity, thinking outside the box. You know, keeping people playful. I try to get a vision of the future, and then I try to figure out where the discontinuities are. I think Something Ventured is a nice piece because it celebrates venture capital in a unique and powerful way. Being your own boss is much superior to working for the man, including working for your father. In the early days of the video game business, everybody played. The question is, what happened? My theory, and I think it's pretty well borne out, is that in the 80s, games got gory, and that lost the women. And then they got complex, and that lost the casual gamer. I founded Atari in my garage in Santa Clara while at Stanford. When I was in school, I took a lot of business classes. I was really fascinated by economics. You end up having to be a marketeer, finance maven and a little bit of a technologist in order to get a business going. All schools will end up using game metrics in the future. Everybody copied Atari products, so we started messing with them and it was fun. We bought enough chips that we could get them mislabeled. So we bankrupted at least 2 companies which copied our boards, and bought all the parts but they were the wrong parts, so they're sitting on all this inventory they can't sell because the games don't work. I believe there are Steve Jobses all around us. Really, what is happening is that they're being edited out of importance. We didn't do a square ball in Pong because we thought it was cool. We did it because that was all we could do. I've always thought legal addictions are a great way to create a business. Starbucks is a wonderful example. I want to fix education in the world. As soon as I work on that, I am going to work on world hunger and then world peace. I always loved both Breakout and Asteroids. I thought they were really good games. There was another game called Tempest that I thought was really cool, and it represented a really hard technology. It's probably one of the only color vector screens that was used in the computer graphics field at that time. The truly creative people tend to be outliers. These days when you say, video game, people think of immersive games that take over your life and require 3 thumbs to control. My goal is to create games that almost retreat into the background. I'm interested in bringing them back to their role as a social facilitator, the way party games help people to interact. I just want the future to happen faster. I can't imagine the future without robots. People like secrets. Creative people really like secrets. Women were very, very good at Pong. It was part of the dating scene. The number of people who told me they met their wife or husband playing Pong was huge. They were shoulder to shoulder, talking and playing. It was body contact and verbal contact. You want to build your IQ higher in the next 2 years? Be uncomfortable. That means, learn something where you have a beginner's mind. Remember that we can only in our forebrains handle 5 to 7 items. Our back brains can handle massive amounts. So when you're given a problem, think about it before you go sleep, and chances are you can solve it by the next morning. We're moving away from a credentialed society to a merit society. Pong hit the fancy. It was sort of the perfect storm of a game which has 2 players highly social, a game that women could play better than a guy, and sort of an acceptance of this social nature of games in a bar. When it kind of went to Street Fighter, where you had to push 13 buttons with all 13 of your fingers and rip the spine out of somebody, you know, violent games lost the women. Complexity lost the casual gamer. I had an awful lot of my soul invested in Atari culture. I'm glad to see the casual gameplay coming back now on the internet, games that aren't violent, that aren't complex, that you can sit down and you can have some fun. Every company needs to have a skunkworks, to try things that have a high probability of failing. You try to minimize failure, but at the same time, if you're not willing to try things that are inherently risky, you're not going to make progress. Do I really want to do a mobile game that's one of 300,000, where discoverability is everything? You really have to have a little more sizzle on the steak. I would rather be one of 100 apps for Google Glass than one of 300,000 for iOS and Android. I was actually the manager of the games department of an amusement park when I was at college, so I understood the coin-op side of the games business very well. One of the big concerns I have is that most of the HR departments in a lot of companies are hiring away from creativity and they don't know it. For instance, they are requiring everybody to have a college degree. The most creative people I know couldn't deal with college. Creativity is every company's first driver. It's where everything starts, where energy and forward motion originate. Without that first charge of creativity, nothing else can take place. Sometimes when you hire people who have to pass a Mr. Congeniality test, you end up losing some of the nonconformists who will give you different views and perspectives. I basically look at PR as something you do if there's an object in mind, but my ego doesn't need it. Radical innovation is difficult to fund. It seems scary, and the really radical things seem even more scary. When I was running Atari, violence against humanoid figures was not allowed. We'd let you shoot at a tank, but we drew the line at shooting at people, with blood splattering everywhere. The subtle generational cues that make one thing cool and another uncool aren't always obvious to a parent. My children are my dinner table sounding board. I've come up with some wonderful ideas that they universally dismissed as lame. Young adults love to play games and they're thirsty for social interaction, but a lot of bar and restaurant experiences are quite unsatisfactory on the social level. What young people need is a place that has the feel of an unhosted party where they find themselves interacting with like-minded strangers. The game business reinvents itself every 5 years. The idea is to become a best-selling author first and then the rest of my books will be slam dunks. I've always been a tech head. Some of the best projects to ever come out of Atari or Chuck E. Cheese's were from high school dropouts, college dropouts. One guy had been in jail. I'm the only one who was predicting the Nintendo Wii would beat Sony's PlayStation 3. Walk to work, even if it's 4 miles. Ride a bike to work. Drive a different way. On your way there, try to find beauty. You'd be surprised how much more of the neighborhood you can perceive and experience when you're looking for unique spots of beauty. Everybody believes in innovation until they see it. Then they think, oh, no, that'll never work. It's too different. Visit our website for more quotes. Quoting.com